in Columbia, South Carolina. Before we go any further, let us first thank Baba Rotowski and his beautiful queen for allowing us to be here today. Please give him a round of applause. I also want to acknowledge Queen Mother G, who was the first and only previous host of Dr. Umar in Columbia, South Carolina. Where are you, Mama G? Right over here. Give her a hand. So only my second visit in your town, and actually the first to actually address everyone openly. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Umar Johnson, and I am a doctor of clinical psychology, a doctorate that I earned from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine about a decade ago. I'm also a certified school psychologist, something I've been doing for 20 years now, studying for about a quarter of a century. I'm also a Pan-Africanist, former Minister of Education for Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, which is the largest black organization in modern history, the only mass movement to be organized without the use or exploitation of a religion. And it is the organization that gave us the red, black, and green flag. So today I'm going to talk about politics because I'm trained in political science, but I'm also going to talk about Pan-Africanism. But the biggest contextual conversation we need to have today is the miseducation of our children, which is the primary reason why I'm here, because I am the only school psychologist in the black conscious community, and I'm probably the only psychologist in the United States of America of our race who teaches black parents plainly and openly what the school is doing and how they are doing it. So let's start there. Let's start with that. The psychological and educational exploitation of black children. First and foremost, before we get started, are there any sisters in the back who need a seat? Because if you need a seat, there will be a brother who will vacate his. So raise your hand, ladies, if you need a seat. Any sisters in the back standing who would like to sit? Don't be ashamed. Are you sure? All right. So let's deal with this demon called special education. Let's start with that. So special education came to us in 1975 by an act of the United States Congress. And I don't have a problem with you taping unless Baba does. Go right ahead. So, unless you're a coon or a hater, then put the phone down. Now, don't get me started. Okay? So, special ed comes to us in 1975 by an act of U.S. Congress, Public Law 94-142, which was the Education for All Handicapped Children Act. Now, let me be clear. The reason we got special ed in 75 is because the Supreme Court outlawed school desegregation in 54. The 1954 Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision that no school district, even now, 50 some odd years later, has followed. Nonetheless, it was that law that gave birth to special ed. Why? Because white folks needed an excuse, a justification to resegregate black children from white children in the post-Jim Crow era, and they could no longer use race. So if I want to get black kids out of the same class with my white children, how can I do that if I'm not allowed to use race? The learning disability became the new scapegoat. The learning disability replaced race as the justification, as the excuse for why and how white school districts all across America would in fact keep black children separate. Which is why you cannot prove a learning disability because it's not scientific. The learning disability is a social construct. They made it up to justify resegregation of the children. Well, what do you mean by that, Dr. Umar? My son has a learning disability in reading. He has an IEP for it. My daughter has a learning disability for math. She has an IEP for it. My grandson has an emotional disturbance. He has an IEP for it. My granddaughter has an intellectual disability. She has an IEP for it. But let me ask you a real simple question. How can you prove to me that that child is reading disabled? Because the psychological evaluation did not prove that. How can you prove to me that that child was math disabled or reading disabled, intellectually disabled, or emotionally disturbed? You cannot prove it. The psychological evaluation does not prove the child was learning disabled. The only thing the psychological evaluation proved was that the person conducting the evaluation believed the child was learning disabled. See, when we bring your child into the office, a desk just like this, I'm sitting on this side as the evaluating certified school psychologist. Your child is sitting over there. I'm going to give your child an intelligence test, reading test, writing test, math test, listening test, speaking test. I'm going to give them a visual motor screening, an adaptive behavior measure, some form of an emotional assessment, some form of a psychological screener. I'm going to observe him in the class. I'm going to talk to his mother. I'm going to talk to the teacher. I'm going to talk to the father. I'm going to review his records, his test scores, his attendance, his discipline, his special ed file, his report card grades, his South Carolina State Achievement Test scores. But everything I just discussed only gives me a score. Nothing I just discussed produces a diagnosis. So number one, I want all y'all to understand that no test diagnoses children. Some of y'all think you take your child in, they give them a reading disability test or an ADHD test. There's no such thing. The tests only give us scores. It is the human being that decides if the child is learning disabled. I want to be clear about that. And most children go to special ed for what? Reading problems. Why is that? Because whole language has replaced phonics as the primary mode of reading instruction. So our children are not taught how to read as well as we did. And that's why the special ed rates are up through the roof. Then there's 13 special ed categories. There's speech and language impairments, there's autism, there's the specific learning disability, which includes your reading, writing, math, listening, speaking. There's your intellectual disability, there's your other health impairment for things such as ADHD. There's your blindness, your deafness, your brain injury, your developmental delay, your orthopedic impairment, your multiple disability, your children who are both blind and deaf. But of those 13, the reading disability is by far the largest reason why black children are in special education. It's reading. And although I do blame the school for poorly teaching our children how to read, I blame you even more. And the reason I blame black people even more is we are the only ones who have to live with the consequences of bad decisions that are made on behalf of our children. And some of you are extremely docile when it comes to letting white folk decide what's best for your child, failing to realize that you're the only one who has to live with the consequences of the poor decisions. They will be in that elementary school 5 years, 6 years, maybe 8. They will be in that high school 3 years or 4 years. But once they leave that school, that principal will never see your child or think about them ever again. Same thing with the counselor, the nurse, the psychologist, the classroom teacher. Your child only belongs to them for a season. They belong to you for a lifetime. But yet and still, you keep on letting these white folks and the coons who work with them make decisions about your children that will be disastrous for their future. Understand something. Most black men in jail read on the 4th grade level. Most black boys will be referred for special ed in the 4th grade. There's 2 million black people in prison. There's 2 million black children in special education. Special ed is the school to prison pipeline. If your child got a reading problem, the best thing you can do is give your child a tutor, not no IEP. Because the longer your child stays in special ed, the worse off they'll become. What do you mean by that? Put a 5th grader in special ed because they're reading on the 3rd grade level. By the time they get to the 9th grade, they'll be reading on the 5th grade level. Now they're 4 grades behind. And then when they get to the 9th grade, they'll be reading on the 6th grade level. When they get to the 11th grade, they'll be reading on the 6th grade level. Now they're 5 grades behind. The gap gets wider between your children and other children their age the longer they get in special ed. Why does the gap grow? Because how are you going to catch up going slower? Special education is dumbed down education. And most of the time our children don't have a problem learning. They don't have a problem learning the skill of reading or math. Their issue is motivation and interest. In fact, most black children in special ed are not there for skills problems. They're there for motivational issues. And that comes directly from your home. See, the real LD in the black community is not the learning disability. The learning disability is not the real LD. The real LD in the black community is the lazy disability. Your children have lazy disabilities. That's what they have. Raheem can learn how to read. He's not interested. Shaquita can learn how to do math. She's not interested. Raheem is going to be a football or basketball player, or so he thinks. Because nobody bothered to tell that boy that you have a greater chance of being struck by lightning than you do of becoming a professional athlete. Shaquita wants to be the next Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion. And nobody told her that the chances of her making it big in music and living comfortable enough off of it to never need another job in her life are also much lower than it is her risk to be struck by lightning. We are letting our children grow up with fantasies instead of goals. We are letting our children grow up with fantasies instead of plans. And we can talk about the miseducation machine all day, but I'm willing to bet you if I go into your homes, I won't see a bookshelf in most of them. I won't see a dictionary in most of them. I won't see a thesaurus in most of them. And I won't see a complete set of encyclopedia in most of them. But I'll see fake hair. I'll see Air Jordans. I'll see big TVs, laptops, video games. I mean, after all, what are we about to do the week after next? Not me, but you all. You're about to run out and take every penny you saved this year and give it to white folks in the name of Christmas, which ain't got nothing to do with Jesus the Christ at all. But you've been so induced by the white power structure, they manipulated your love for God into an economic holiday for themselves. And so now you go and waste all your money on buying gifts that neither you nor your child will be bothered with 2 weeks after Christmas. And yet we go back and we complain about racism, but we keep on financially empowering it every Christmas. And I'm trying to understand for the life of me, why are there video game units in homes with kids not even reading on grade level? If your son got an IEP, if he ain't got straight A's and B's, if he's in special ed, what is he doing with a video game unit in the house? He got time to spend 3, 4, 5 hours a day playing games, but he ain't got no time to read books and study. See, if it was up to me, we wouldn't diagnose the children. We would diagnose the homes they come from. If it was up to me, we wouldn't diagnose the babies. We would diagnose the mothers and fathers, because there would be no learning disability if it didn't start in your home. There would be no special ed if it didn't start in your home. I can't remember the last time I went into a black house where they had a quiet hour, where everyone in the home, parent and child, was expected to read. We don't do that no more. Ain't no quiet hour in our house. In fact, most black homes, you go into them, there's no space where you can go, focus, study, or even think that isn't polluted with TV or radio or video game or cell phone or somebody running their mouth. No quiet place to operate. Your house is nothing but a prison preparation laboratory. And then you get mad when they end up in jail, when you set the groundwork and the foundation for it to happen. We know what white folks about. They've been consistent for 1,000 years. You can't even blame them no more because they are consistent. The problem is you are inconsistent in your response to what they do. It makes no sense that African people in this country are a $2 trillion industry. $2 trillion. Richest group of Africans in the world, 10th richest economic nation on the planet Earth, and yet nowhere can I go in this country. 50 states and 50 million Africans. Nowhere in 50 states and 50 million Africans. That's 1 million blacks for every state. And nowhere can I go and find an independent black community. Nowhere. That's sad. I find Chinese ones. Arabs got theirs. Mexicans got theirs. East Indians got theirs. Native Americans got theirs. As long as we've been here, we still don't have an independent community. And what is the basis of an independent community? A school to teach the children, a hospital to save the children, a supermarket to feed the children, and a bank to invest in the children. Those are the 4 essential institutions of an independent community, and we ain't got them nowhere. Black people once owned in the United States over 500 hospitals. Over 500 independently black owned and operated hospitals. You can hardly find one now. One thing slavery did to us was it took from us, it killed the natural desire that we once had to control our own destiny. Everybody else still has that. That's why when Chinese show up in Colombia, the first thing Chinese do is build Chinese communities. When Arabs show up in Colombia, the first thing they do is they build communities. When you see Mexicans and other groups show up, I don't care if they're in Charleston, I don't care if they're in Rock Hill, I don't care if they're right here. Wherever you find them, Newberry, wherever you go, they build community. A place to call their own. Black people are the only non-white people in this country who are allergic to accumulating power. You don't want power. You know, when we come together, you know what we usually talk about? How we can participate in other people's power dynamic. Most of our conversations are about inclusion, not independence. Most of our conversations are about how can I participate, not how can I take over. European Jews, you think they come together to find out how they can participate with Negroes? You think Chinese are concerned about participating with Indians? When the last time you seen a Chinese in an East Indian shop, and when is the last time you seen an Indian in a Chinese shop? You don't! Because they are culturally self-sufficient. We are the only people who are not culturally self-sufficient, and religion is a big part of that. Because religion switched out culture for beliefs. And the foundation of all black religion, I don't care if you're an African traditionalist, and I am, but I got issues with the fact that we initiating white folks to be priests and priestesses of traditional African spiritual systems. That's insane. One of the reasons African people don't get respect anywhere in the world is nothing is sacred to African people anymore. There is nothing you have that a non-African cannot touch. And if I'm wrong, name it. Nothing. There's no church that a non-African can't touch. There's no shrine that a non-African can't touch. There's no cultural product that a non-African can't exploit. Think about it. There's no religion they cannot belong to. Every non-African in the world can touch anything that you make. Nothing sacred. That's why McDonald's is going to take Kwanzaa and turn that into a financial payday. Everybody in McDonald's is going to put on a Kwanzaa hat and a Kwanzaa shirt, and they're going to do the same thing in Walmart. And when Black History Month come around, they're going to pimp that too for money. Because nothing's sacred. Why they don't pimp Hanukkah to Jews? Why they don't put on a Hanukkah hat in McDonald's or Burger King? Why they not selling Hanukkah products in Walmart and Macy's? Because they don't allow that. Because their holidays are sacred to European Jews. If you're not a European Jew, you cannot touch it. Now, black folks, nothing's sacred. Nothing at all. Why did Joe Biden make Juneteenth a federal holiday this past summer? He didn't make Juneteenth a federal holiday because he cared about black folks. Because if that's the case, he would support reparations. The reason he made Juneteenth a federal holiday is because Juneteenth is the only all-black thing that we have that has not yet been colonized by white folks that still represents some degree of black autonomy and power. So in order to kill us, they got to kill Juneteenth. Every time the U.S. government endorses a holiday for black folks, they kill it. Think about Black History Month. When you was growing up, when I was growing up, Black History Month got a lot of respect. It was big. We waited for Black History Month. 28 days of programming, TV, radio, public library, black church. Black History Month was everything. It was bigger than Kwanzaa, bigger than Christmas. Look at it now. You can hardly find it in February. Ever since the White House started celebrating Black History Month, it's lost its value. Why? Because whenever they take over something black, they commercialize it. And when you commercialize something, meaning what? You make it safe for financial exploitation. You just robbed it of all sacredness. They did that with Black History Month. That's why you can't find Black History Month no more. I remember once upon a time, Kwanzaa was sacred. And that was a real big deal. Now, you still get your Kwanzaa celebrations, but it's nothing like it was in the 80s and the 90s. You know why? Because the White House started celebrating Kwanzaa. And they put it on the stamp. And once the White House approves it, now it's safe for what? The white corporations to exploit it. So now they have Kwanzaa at the department stores, and they got Kwanzaa at the white libraries, and even white folks be celebrating Kwanzaa with no black folks around. And one of the mistakes Dr. Karanga made, all respect to the elder, was he said that everybody can participate in Kwanzaa, although they cannot lead it. Now, I appreciate the fact he said they cannot lead it, but the fact you allow them to participate in it was enough for them to kill it. We need something sacred. We invented hip-hop, we gave it right to white folks. Jazz music, we gave it right to white folks. We are so in love with being patted on the head by white folks that as soon as we invent something, we don't even think about making no money off of it. We want to give it to massa so we can get pat on the head.
That's right, say it.
Black people are in a state of perpetual psychological underdevelopment. We still deep down believe that we cannot make it without white folks. That thought has not changed, and it cannot change as long as public education is preparing our children. Because the schools are never going to teach black children how to end white supremacy. They're only going to teach them how to make it stronger. That's why Barack Obama made white supremacy stronger. Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, Judge Tom Ass, they all make it stronger. But most of us raise little baby coons anyway, because we tell our kids to do what? Get a good education and get out this neighborhood. That's what we do. Black kids are raised to get away from their people as quickly as they can. Most of you, as soon as you got a master's degree and good enough job, you ran right to a white suburb. Black people are only integrationists with non-African people. When it comes to each other, we are totally segregationists. We talk about how white people move off the block as soon as there's more than one black family. Black people will move off the block as soon as there's more than one black family. The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said it best when he said, we are a race of people cursed with petty differences. Even if we don't have a reason to disagree, we will find one. Right. We still dealing with light skin and dark skin. Right. We still dealing with bourgeois and ghetto. We still dealing with educated and uneducated. We still dealing with Muslim and Christian and Moor and Nawapi and God and Earth, Nation of Islam, Pan-African Garveyite versus Pan-African Socialist. We still dealing with the petty differences. Brothers and sisters, we don't need everybody to be a robot. We do not have to be homogenous on everything. We don't need to agree on everything. We just have to agree on certain things. Because I don't care what your political ideology is, all of the children got to be educated, they got to be fed, they got to be protected, they got to be employed, they need medical coverage, they need security, they need employment. At the end of the day, they all need the same thing no matter what you believe politically. We talk about how the black church is economically and politically irrelevant to black people, shows the black conscious community. I mean, after all, what have we done? We claim to be an alternative to the church. I can't tell. In fact, the black conscious community ain't nothing but church. We got our own bishops. We got our own pastors. We ain't got the Bible and the Quran, but all the books replace that. And what do we share in common with the church? No work, all words. That's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to get the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. Because I said, our people are going to get tired of this. You can't liberate black people with information. If you could, we'd be free already. You need organization to do that. Have you noticed that most of the time we come together, it's a conversation about the past? Every event about the past. And don't get me wrong, the past is important because we stand on it. But if you don't ever get around to talking about the present and the future, you're done. All we want to do is convince white folks we built the pyramids. They'll give you them pyramids. He'll give you that. You want to convince the white man he was the first man and woman? He'll give you that. He'll let you stay stuck in the past while he runs the present, and the Chinese will take care of the future for you. You think black children is going to be content just knowing they were great 5,000 years ago? You got to give them opportunities in the present. The past is powerful, but it's never more powerful than the present. Because you cannot live back there. And one of the reasons we love to run back to the past and debate and discuss issues is because you can't change it. In other words, if I can trap this meeting into a conversation about the past, we never got to do no work. And one of the biggest reasons we fight all the time is we don't want to do no work. See, black people do not want to be accountable to other black people, not at all. And what I've learned is the more conscious you become, the more of a distraction you become too, because you're so puffed up with information that your ego swells to the point where you feel you're the only one who can make decisions in the room. In other words, the ego of the Negro is a significant distractor from the progress of our people. I mean, look at all the black leaders who were murdered by the ego of another Negro. Malcolm X was murdered for the ego of another Negro. Patrice Lumumba was murdered for the ego of another Negro. Amilcar Cabral was murdered for the ego of another Negro. Huey P. Newton was murdered for the ego of another Negro. And we can go on and on all day long. How the black man has internalized the white man's consciousness. And we believe there can only be one king at the top. That's why we have the crab in the barrel syndrome, because on the plantation, they only rewarded one Negro at a time. So now when you see a black man or black woman make it, the jealousy factor kicks in because you think it'll only be one at the top, failing to realize we can all be at the top. God created a world of abundance. It's enough for everyone. And the safety of no one is guaranteed unless the safety of everyone is guaranteed. Parents, stop getting children evaluated for learning disabilities, especially under the age of 8. That's ridiculous. I'm seeing 5-year-old boys with reading disabilities. Are you kidding me? 5 years old with a reading disability in kindergarten. He just started learning how to read this year. And you didn't already let white folks stamp him. A math disability at 6, that's ridiculous. Most of the time your child has had poor preschool experiences, poor academic experiences in your home, no interest in learning, no homework, no reading, no nothing. It was cultural factors that led to that deficiency, not a learning disability. Understand, you only go to special ed if you are disabled. You don't go to special ed because you're 2 grades behind. You don't go to special ed because you need extra help. You don't go to special ed because you don't feel like doing your work. You must be disabled in that area. You must absolutely require special ed in order to learn. And if you don't require special ed in order to learn, you're supposed to be in a regular classroom. Oh, yeah. You know how many autistic kids I had to yank out of special ed? Yes, he's autistic. He has social skills delayed. Y'all going to give him social skills training, but he don't need to be in no dumbed down class. That kid is smarter than most of the kids in a regular class. What is he doing over here? Special ed is disability plus need, not need alone. Excuse me, not disability alone. You got a son with so-called ADHD, but he's an A, B, or a BC student. Why does he have an IEP? If the ADHD, so-called, because it don't exist, if it's affecting his ability to function, he gets a 504 plan. But if it's not affecting his ability to learn, he cannot go to special ed. I had a young lady with a hearing impairment. She didn't want to wear the hearing aid. So they put her in special ed because she didn't want to wear the hearing aid. I said, well, first of all, I wouldn't wear it either. It looks like a computer on the side of her damn head. How about you get her a miracle ear that goes inside the ear so other kids can't tell she has this, so she don't feel insecure about her appearance? And that's what we did. We switched out the air tube, and now she has a better hearing aid. She can sit in a regular class. We tore the IEP out. You don't go to special ed because you have a disability. You go to special ed because the disability affects your learning. And you parents with this ADHD nonsense, you need to stop it. Every other black boy in the hood is on stimulant medication. Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Metadate. Are you crazy? These are nothing but synthesized forms of crack cocaine. The same drugs they sell on the street, they're giving your kids so they can sit still long enough to learn about Anne Frank and Christopher Columbus. And you know what makes it worse? We don't diagnose ADHD inside the classroom. ADHD got to come from the hospital or the clinic. I can evaluate for it outside of the school, but I cannot evaluate for ADHD in the school because it's a mental disorder. It's not a special ed disability. So that means any child in special ed for ADHD is only there because their mother or father went outside the school, got a diagnosis, brought the diagnosis back to the school. Look how ridiculous that is. You bring in white folks paperwork that they can use to lynch your child with. If you never bring that diagnosis into the school, there's no way he can be in special ed for something the school don't even know about. ADHD. It's a joke. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. No, it's not. It's ain't no daddy at home disorder, ADHD. And why do I say that? Because over 85% of black boys diagnosed with ADHD don't have a father in their life. This is about a war on black males that send the fathers to jail, leave the mothers at home to try to raise sons on their own, which is not fair. And because the mothers can't do that because they're overworked and they got enough responsibilities to handle, they end up sending your son to the doctor because they don't want to give him his daddy back. This ain't got nothing to do with brain neurology. This is about systemic white supremacy. Kill all the males. And that's exactly what they're doing. See, there's 6 stages in the psychoacademic Holocaust, brothers and sisters. First, they miseducate the kids on purpose. And you need to understand that miseducation is not a function of poverty. It's not a function of the dad in jail. It's not a function of the mother being on Section 8. It's not a function of Lil Wayne or sagging pants or basketball. It's a function of racism. The black kids are deliberately miseducated in South Carolina. Why? Because if you don't deliberately miseducate black children in South Carolina, you cannot guarantee privilege for the white ones. You'll never see the black kids' test scores go as high as the white ones because white people make the test. They determine the measuring stick. The day black kids outperform white kids on any test, that test gets burned by the midnight. They can't do it. White kid privilege must be protected, and in order to do that, you give black kids the worst schools, the worst teachers, the worst resources. And the black community can't cry victim because you spend $2 billion a year on Air Jordans, $4 billion a year on liquor, $30 billion on weave, perm, and beauty products, $800 million a year on chicken, turkey, beef, and pork. You are literally financing your own heart disease. We buy twice the amount of Mercedes-Benzes as white people, but we have 1/3 of the wealth of Europeans. Can somebody explain to me where in the African DNA is Mercedes-Benz? The reason we're so addicted to the Mercedes is we're addicted to status. And since we don't enjoy real freedom in America, we would just rather surround ourselves with the symbols of it. That's why most Negroes spend most of their money trying to look more important than other Negroes. Will Smith said it best. Most black people spend too much money they do not have buying things they do not need to impress other black people they don't even like. No more special ed. And if your child is in special ed, you can get them taken out. All you have to do is call an IEP meeting. And stop calling me up saying, Dr. Umar, what do I do? They put my child in special ed. Ain't no they. We. Your signature is required 4 times before any child goes into a special ed class. There is no they. It's always we. Docile black parents and racist white teachers and school administrators. You need both to miseducate. Without a docile black parent, there is no school to prison pipeline. Without a I don't want to be bothered, just show me where to sign at black parent, there is no school to prison pipeline. You got to sign permission for the school psychologist to evaluate. That's me. You got to sign the evaluation report when I'm done, saying you agree with it. You got to sign the IEP, and then you got to sign the service agreement so special ed can be delivered. Your name must be signed 4 times before special ed starts. I don't want to hear about what they did. Talk about what y'all did. And remember this. They can't force you to put your child in special ed, but they can force you to keep them in once they're there. Remember this. They can't force you to put your child on Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, and Meditate, but they can force you to keep them on the meds once they're on the meds. And I want y'all to understand something. Once you get the ADHD evaluation, they can force the medication. See, if you don't plan on doping your child, you must refuse the evaluation. Because the evaluation is the key that the school needs to call up Child Protective Services in Columbia to bully you to medicate your child. And if you don't, they'll take all the children from you. It's called medical neglect. It's one of the fastest growing reasons as to why black parents are losing their children. Medical neglect, not abuse. Not caregiving neglect, no. Failing to give your child dangerous medications because you didn't want to listen to Dr. Umar when he told you refuse the eval, because if they get the label, they will treat it like cancer. They treat ADHD like cancer. They will tell you your son has this mental problem and he needs the medication. And you know what I always ask white folks? Can you show me exactly where the ADHD is in his brain? Is it in the front? Is it on the side? Is it in the back? Where is it? The amygdala, the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex? Where exactly is the ADHD so we can see it first? I need to see it. Where's the reading disability? The top, side, bottom? Can somebody show me where the reading disability is in your child's head? Can you show me where the emotional disturbance is? You can't. It don't exist. These are not biological disabilities. They are imaginary ones. White folks made them up to destroy black children's opportunities. Killing their futures before it even gets here because some docile black parent loves to sign papers. If it was up to me, every time a black parent signs something you had no business signing, your finger should be broke off. Because your damn ink pen finger, that sign pen finger, messing black kids' lives up. And then every time I ask you, why did you get them tested? Because the teacher asked me. So you do anything white folks ask you to do? Right. I don't care what the teacher asked. Well, they thought it would be good to just see if he has it. Really? See if he has what? Did they ever show you the ADHD? Was there any brain scan, MRI, X-ray, blood sample, ultrasound, urine screening? Hell no. ADHD is an idea. The learning disability is an idea. Conduct disorder is an idea. Intellectual disability is an idea. It's not a scientific reality. It kills me how white folks make up stuff and black people just go crazy. Like I see a lot of black sisters running around with the feminist movement. I'm a feminist. Do you even know where this comes from? Do you not know that the women who founded this in America were racist, all of them? And when they founded the first female abolition society to eliminate slavery, free black women couldn't even be a part of it because they said y'all was too stupid to participate. Wow. And here you was running after something white women had made up. And then modern feminism with Gloria Steinem was totally financed by the CIA and the FBI to get black mothers out the home so the government would have no problem getting to your child's brain and brainwashing them. CIA invented feminism. Not no women on the streets. FBI came up with the LGBT movement. That didn't come from the gays. That was a government thing to do what? Reduce black population growth. 2 boys can't make a baby, nor can 2 girls. This whole gay thing ain't got nothing to do with rights and family and love and romance. It's about making sure black people stay at 13 to 17% and not a percentage more. You've been locked at 13 to 17% for 20 years. How is that? We got more Mexicans, we got more Puerto Ricans, we got more Chinese, we got more Native Americans, we got more of everything, but black folks still 13 to 17%. Abortion, hysterectomy, black on black crime, mass incarceration, and LGBTQRSTUVXYZ. I don't hate black gay people. I love all black folks, but I cannot allow the open promotion of that lifestyle because it means the end of the traditional black family. And if you've been watching television, if you look at all the new shows, all the new movies, all the new commercials, it's either same sex or mixed race. Right. You don't see no more black man and black woman on nothing. If she's black, he's white. If he's black, she's white. Or it's 2 women or 2 men. This is not for y'all. This is for the kids. They want to condition the children that happiness no longer equals a black man and a black woman. And then on top of that, we got silly YouTubian Negroes who create an entire markets out of attacking the opposite gender. You got a whole crew of beta males on YouTube, and all they do is make videos disparaging and degrading a black woman. And then you got a whole army of black women who don't do nothing but disparage and degrade black men in public before the whole world. We're the only people who do that. The white man got problems with the white woman, but he ain't going to put it on YouTube every single day, a video a night on the opposite gender. And our children are watching this. So we are influencing them to consider some of these sick, pathological European family systems. Marcus Garvey told us this 100 years ago. He said, if the black man and woman are not careful, quote, they will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and die from the effects of it. And that's exactly what we're doing. Everything white folks throw out there, we jump right onto it. ADHD, that's a damn lie. It's either ain't no daddy at home disorder, or it's artificial diet at home disorder, too much sugar, caffeine, and high fructose corn syrup. Some of your kids are sugar addicts, and you can't break them out of it because you a damn sugar addict. Or it's ain't no discipline at home disorder. Raheem does whatever he wants because that's my baby. Black mothers, I love you to death, and I commend all of you for holding down the household, giving the war against black males. But some of you need to do a better job because you're raising your son to be the exact type of man you yourself would never want to marry. Right. And then you curse yourself, your own karma come back to visit you because you say you can't find a good man. That's because you're not raising none yourself. Everything you want your man to be, your son is not. How can you get it yourself? You want a hard-working man, your son lazy as hell. You want a man who respects women, your son disrespects everybody, including you. How are you going to ask society to give you something that you're not giving to society? Most black boys learn to disrespect black women from their mothers, not their fathers. Right. It's the mothers who tell them girls ain't no good. Yes, they tell me. Dr. Umar, my father ain't around. My mother told me don't trust these hoes. That's right. It's true. Black men got issues. We got ego issues. But I tell you this, we'll squash it a lot quicker than a lot of sisters will. Y'all will hold a grudge until old age. 80 years old, still won't speak because you took your boyfriend in preschool. Stop getting the babies evaluated. Learning disabilities and for ADHD, do not give them the medication under any circumstances. Those medications kill blood-brain cells, mess with organ function. Psychosis, suicidal thinking, homicidal thinking, tic disorders. It can stunt your son's growth. It can also cause early male pattern baldness, psychotic problems, and a lot of times it's irreversible. I know children who took psychiatric medicine for 2-3 years. They can't even drive the car no more. They're so disoriented. Stop giving them crack for kids. And if you really think that they're so hyper, go to the drugstore, the herbal store. There's all types of herbal remedies that you can use if you think your child's central nervous system is overstimulated. There's a product called Calm Child. There's another product called Melissa Supreme. There's all kinds of them out there. You drop them right under the tongue, and they work to calm down the central nervous system. But then again, I'm going to say don't even waste your money then unless you know your son has an opportunity to work off some of that natural God-given energy that he has. Because in many of our schools, there's no recess. There's no gym class. There's no class trip. There's no opportunity for a growing boy to work off natural energy. He's not disordered because he's a male. The problem with public school is they want the boys to act like girls, and when you can't act like a girl, you're a problem. Public schools are dominated by female energy. The schools are white and they're all women. And so the black boy is twice discriminated against. He's discriminated against because he's black, and he's discriminated against because he's a male. In essence, he's blackmailed by white women. And America's research even tells you that teachers pay most attention to the children in the class who looks the most like their own. So if your son is blue, black, purple with a voice like Barry White, you know damn well he's going to end up on a special ed list. It's true. Dark skin, swaggerlicious, young brother walking in that classroom, he represents everything that white teacher been told about black males. Stop going to school meetings by yourself, black parents. Always take somebody with you. Worst thing you can do is go into a school meeting alone. Take somebody with you because you need a witness to whatever was said in case you ever need to lodge a complaint or file suit against the district. This is why whenever you have a meeting, they bring 20, 30 white folks in there for one black mother. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm here to talk about my son's behavior. I got 20 devils sitting in front of me. You got to deal with the principal, the vice principal, the principal intern, the school nurse, school counselor, school secretary, school psychologist, grade leader, dean of students, trash man, bus driver, window washer, football coach. Why they bring so many white folks in to talk to one black parent? Number one, to intimidate you, make you think you don't know your child better than them. And number two, to have a million witnesses to the lies that they're going to fabricate once the meeting is over. And you're defenseless against the lies because you didn't have nobody there to testify to your truth. You know how many black fathers I know can't even walk into their child's school anymore? Never put their hands on nobody. But a white teacher felt intimidated because he raised his voice. And because she felt intimidated, privileged white woman, because he raised his voice, he got a restraining order. Can't go back to school night, report card conference, and he is also going to miss graduation because he didn't listen to Dr. Umar. Don't go into schools alone. I'll never go into a school alone. Even when I was principal, I wasn't in a room alone with white girls or white teachers. Because the last thing I need is some old nasty white girl talking about I looked at a behind that she don't even have. Leave the door open. I call my secretary and come sit in there. I need a witness to this in case she say somebody looked at something that I never want to look at. And black men, you should be embarrassed all these white girls you running around with here in South Carolina. What? You belong with the black woman, not the white woman, and I don't care if you don't like it. Absolutely unacceptable. I ain't got nothing against the white girl. I have no interest in degrading her. But when you walk with her, you degrade your sister, and then a lot of you will get around these white girls, and when you see a black woman, you won't even speak. You'll go out of your way to not even acknowledge a black woman when you with a white girl.
Hold the head up, brother.
Talking about all white people ain't racist. Yes, they are, and only a fool doesn't know that. Every white person is racist. They have to be. White supremacy is only held together by the total commitment to the system of every European on the planet Earth. If all white folks was not racist, the system would have fell apart by now. But because you so in love with white cookies, you want to give white women a pass. Well, if white women ain't racist so much, then explain to me why I don't see a white women's movement against mass incarceration of black males. Why I don't see a white women's movement against gentrification in South Carolina. Where's the white women's movement against the miseducation of black children? Where's the white women's movement against the police genocide of African people? Where's the white women's movement for the economic justice of black America? If the white woman is such a liberal, where's her damn social justice movements for you at? She ain't no damn liberal. She's just as racist as the white man. The difference is in the technique. The white woman's job is to psychologically disarm her victim with compassion. And you fall for it every time. Oh, I think she's different. Her ass ain't different. She playing technology on your ass. Low self-esteem, needing a white girl ass black man. And then you want to call me up. Well, I think, Doc, every black man with a white girl is not necessarily a coon. Yes, the hell you are. If you don't like a black woman in Columbia, go get her from Goose Creek. Go get you a Greenville sister. And if the Greenville sister don't work, I know you'll get a Charleston sister that'll work. If that don't work, go to another school. Go get another state. Go to the Caribbean islands. Go to South America. Brazil got tens of millions of them. Go to Canada. Go to Africa. Go to the UK. Black women are the largest population in the world. It's amazing so many black men acting like they can't find one. I didn't say she was perfect. I know the black woman got issues. Piss her off, she'll put your business in the street. But you got issues too. And if she can tolerate you, you can tolerate her. Because guess what? We're not winning this with no outside help. We're either going to save ourselves or we're going to be destroyed. You think that COVID bomb was a natural disaster? Hell no, that was a man-made white man disaster. He dropped the COVID bomb for 4 purposes. Purpose number 1, to destroy the economy of all second and third world nations to make sure they would be re-indebted to the banking system of the globe. That's right, it was a reset button. Boop! All these African countries getting more independent, drop that COVID bomb and force them to shut down operations and put them back in poverty where they started. Number 2, too many old people around the world, especially in Africa. We got to get rid of all these elders. That's why Italy got the hardest hit in Europe with COVID, because Italy is home to the oldest European population in the world. And there's too many elderly black women in Africa. They want to get rid of them. And why do capitalists want to get rid of old folks? Because under capitalism, you're only useful. If I can exploit your labor, you work for me. Or I can exploit your dollar, you buy for me. So if you don't work for me and you don't buy from me, if I can exploit your labor or your dollar, you might as well be dead. And that's the problem of the elder. They don't work anymore and they don't need to buy much. But the society needs to take care of them. So in the eyes of white capitalism, they would be better off dead. And we have swallowed that. That's why as soon as our elders get a little bit sick, we stick them in old folks' homes. I'm not talking about a situation where your elder has so many complications that you can't possibly manage them and you have to work with the old folks home. I'm talking about elders who can still walk, talk, and even take care of themselves. You got them in the old folks home because white folks said that's where they're supposed to go when you get tired of them. But show me an old folks home in ancient Africa. Show me an old folks home back in the day. We didn't do that. How you gonna fight the white man when he's living inside of you? Negroes always talking about being free of white supremacy when the white supremacy is living in you. Every black man got a devil in his heart. Every black girl do too. And until you kill the cracker in you, don't even pay attention to the one outside. Juneteenth, a federal holiday. I can't wait to see what happens next Juneteenth. Now that it's been integrated, you will have to share with the LGBTQ. You have to share with the Afghan refugees. Watch what they do to Juneteenth. The best thing black people can do is continue to have our own independent Juneteenth celebrations. Don't you buy into this government thing. You mean to tell me as soon as Joe Biden get elected president, your first act of office was to sign an anti-transgender bill? That's the first thing you do? Where black people been catching hell with these police and everything else, the first thing you can do is go protect the transgenders. I ain't got no problem with them not being beat up. But guess what? They don't come before me. They didn't build this country. I built this damn country. Wasn't no damn men in heels in the damn slave plantation. Who saw a man with heels on it picking cotton? Wasn't no damn transgender slaves. No. But you got a damn transgender bill. And then you sign an anti-Asian hate bill. I understand. It was wrong what happened to those Asian women down in Atlanta. But you give them a bill that is so far-reaching that it even criminalizes racial slurs against Asians. Did you know you can go to jail for publicly uttering a racial slur against an Asian, but you can call black people nigger and nothing happens to you? And then you give the Afghanis $2 billion. You flying them into every ghetto you can find, giving them housing, jobs, health care, and everything else. And I ain't heard one word about a COVID shot for an Afghan refugee yet. Why are the Afghan refugees here, Dr. Umar? Same reason why Joe Biden giving the Mexicans $500,000 a head to replace you. Oh, black people don't want to take the COVID shot, and you shouldn't. But since black people don't want to take the COVID shot, how can we use this to bring black Jim Crow? I know what we'll do. We'll lay off the Negroes and employ the Mexicans and the Afghanis, and we'll give them money for doing it. The Afghanis are your replacements, and the Mexicans are too. How the hell are you going to have $500,000 to somebody who's not even an American citizen? But yet when the Haitian brothers and sisters showed up in Texas, you treated them like roaches and rats. Couldn't wait to get them up out of the place. And the irony of that is you should have been on your hands and knees thanking those Haitian brothers and sisters for their existence, because it was the Haitian Revolution that quadrupled the physical geographical territory of the United States of America. All territory west of the Louisiana you got because of what Toussaint and Jean-Jacques Dessalines did, and you got the audacity to mistreat the people who swelled up the size of your nation. But then again, I got to look at us too. Because if we was organized, we could have took all the refugees in. All these closed public schools in the ghetto, all these closed buildings in the ghetto that we should be owning. The only reason why gentrification is kicking a butt on black America is because we ain't got our money organized enough to buy up all the stuff in the hood. We should own everything for sale. We got the money to do it, but we rather look good than do good, and that's our problem. Black parents, you got to get serious with your children. If you're not taking them to black museums to learn who they are, you're not on your job. If you're not taking them to black bookstores or to regular bookstores, your child should be reading at least one book a month in addition to what school requires. You should be checking the homework every night. They should be reading every night. Take them to visit the grave sites of our ancestors. Take them to visit the graves of their own bloodline ancestors. Most of our kids don't even know their family tree. Teach it to them. At the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, you don't graduate until you reconstructed your whole family tree. Because if your ancestors are going to be with you your whole life, you might as well know them by name. A damn Juneteenth holiday. You giving other people rights and you going to give us a damn celebration. Remember they gave us Dr. King Day back in the 1980s? Look what they did to Dr. King Day. They turned that into a damn cleanup day. Dr. King's Day is not supposed to be no damn cleanup day. But they use it as a day for black people to do all the money your tax dollars are supposed to pay for. Do all the work your tax dollars are supposed to pay for. It's a joke. But most of us are still on the Democratic Party plantation, are we not? Most of you in this room, you absolutely believe you got to vote Democrat for things to get better. And I'm asking you, what have we gotten from the Democrats? And we've been voting for them for almost 100 years. You do know that. 1932, 1933, FDR. We're about 10 years short of a century of voting Democrat. What have we gotten for voting Democrat? And I'm not advocating Republican either. I'm advocating South Carolina that you withdraw from both parties. Start a South Carolina State Black Political Union and you leverage your votes by negotiating with both parties for what you're going to get in exchange for your vote. And if they do not deliver on what they promise, you simply take those votes across the street to somebody else. Until we organize the black vote, it'll never work for you. It'll never work for you until you organize it. And you'll never get politicians to do anything about the police or the public schools until you organize the black vote. And the reason you'll never get politicians to do anything about the police or public schools before you organize the black vote is because politicians are scared of America's two largest and most powerful unions, and that is the Fraternal Order of Police and the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers. The teachers union and the police are the strongest in the country. That's why you never see the schools get better. That's why you never see police held accountable. That's why you never see teachers held accountable, because every president, every governor, every mayor is scared to hold the police accountable for what they do to blacks, and they're scared to hold teachers accountable for what they do to blacks. And which is so ironic, so many white women are married to white cops. They use the wife to miseducate the kids, and then a husband lock them up when they done. $250,000 white household in the suburbs of Columbia, and they living comfortably off of the miseducation of black children. Brothers and sisters, about 7 years ago, we started raising money for a school in Wilmington, Delaware, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Originally, we wanted a school in Virginia, St. Paul's College. It was an HBCU that I learned about in 2014, and guess what? It only cost $2 million for a 118-acre campus with gym, dorms, lecture halls, cafeteria. Only $2 million, but I couldn't raise the money fast enough. You know who owns St. Paul's now? Chinese. We let the damn Chinese purchase a HBCU built by African ancestors coming out of slavery. We are an embarrassment. You think the Chinese gonna let black people buy historically Chinese university? Hell no. But they own ours now. So once we lost St. Paul's, we kept on looking for a school. So finally, on February the 7th of 2019, we got lucky enough to get 2 schools, not one, in Wilmington, Delaware. Those are the schools we're working on right now. Now, contrary to popular belief, those schools are in very good condition, brothers and sisters. They were built from the ground in 2010, only 11 years ago. A $15 million project. I know the man who did it. Mr. Theo Gregory, attorney at law, former city council president for the city of Wilmington. But some white folks in Dover, Delaware didn't like him, so they sabotaged him out of existence, accused him of financial mismanagement, and after 2 years of operating his charter school, after building a $13 million campus, they shut him down. And y'all want to know why I don't want no charter school? I used to be a charter school principal and vice principal. The reason I don't want no charter school is because you don't control your destiny. As soon as they're ready to shut you down, they will find an excuse. They'll say you play with money, or they'll say that you don't have enough certified teachers, or they say the children's test scores are too low. Whenever they're ready to get rid of a black charter school, they'll get rid of it, because charter schools was founded for white children, not blacks. Poor white people who couldn't afford to send their kids to private school are the ones who gave birth to the charter school movement, a school that looks private, but is still publicly owned and controlled. The mistake black America made is we should have never gave up community control of the public schools. Our fight was always for community control. But you know what happened? Thirsty Negroes in the so-called woke movement said, wait a minute, if I take out this charter, I can pay myself $100,000 a year as the CEO and still hire a separate principal to do all the damn work. So once Negroes found out they could start paying themselves, they dropped the community control movement and went to charter school. Of course, it's going to be hard to operate an independent school or an independent hospital, but it's the only way to do it, brothers and sisters. I am sick and tired of white people controlling my destiny, and you should be too. But until we start pooling our money together and our resources together, we're not going to get out of this. Everybody knows black people hate black people more than they hate racism. And the black church should be ashamed of itself. And why do you got such a problem with black church? It ain't got nothing to do with the beliefs. I don't care what you believe. You can pray to a damn trash can if you want. Our problem with the black church is you take too much of 3 things from black people that should be focused elsewhere: money, time, and emotional energy. Yep. Have you seen the type of money we give to the black church? I read somewhere the black church gets about $1 billion a week. No, $1 million a weekend nationally from black folks. Something like $1 to $5 million a weekend. With that type of money, every black church should have a bank. That type of money, every black church should have a school. Every black church should have a hospital. How you got all these mega churches in South Carolina and you don't put a single black child to work? If you claim to be doing God's work, why are you so comfortable with black people catching hell? We're the only people I know worrying about being happy after you die. Ain't nobody else waiting to die to get happy. Think about that. And when you look at the history, Dr. King may have been an exception. Bishop Turner may have been an exception. We have some exceptions. But when you look at the black church and the role of the political struggle, a lot of the time they have been on the sidelines. Because most people don't become pastors to help black people. They become pastors to help themselves. Same thing with the politicians. Why do most black people run for public office? To change anything? Ain't nothing changed for you since Dr. King died and you've had tens of thousands of black elected officials. Negroes run for office because they know that in most municipalities, even if you only get elected to 1 term, you guarantee the retirement pension after you out of office. Nobody's running for office to help you. They're running for office to get themselves a comfortable retirement. I had an elected official tell me not too long ago, I don't care if my people don't vote me back in, I'm getting my pension.
That's what it's about.
The politician and the preacher, 2 pimps, 2 different outfits. And we need to purge them all. Brothers and sisters, understand. White folks are racist. All of them. The reason you don't get it is most of us think racism and bigotry is the same thing. It's not. Bigotry is when you hate another race. You don't have to hate black people to be a racist. Racism is not about hate. You could be a race-hating racist, but you don't have to be. Racism is about 3 things: power, privilege, and control of all opportunities. Your white coworker, your white girlfriend, your white fiance, your white husband, your white next door neighbor, your white doctor, your white pastor, your white boss, your white attorney, You know what they all have in common? They want to dominate and monopolize all the opportunities in South Carolina away from blacks, all of the resources in South Carolina away from blacks, and all the privileges in South Carolina away from blacks. And if you disagree with me, name me one white person in history who ever fought to eliminate white privilege. I have never seen one. You can show me white people who fought against police brutality. You can show me white people who fought for better schools. You can show me white people who fought to end black homelessness. You can show me white people who fought for this or fought for that. But you know what I call that? Symptom management. They have never tackled the causes of the unemployment, the causes of the bad schools, the causes of the black homeless, the causes of the police genocide. You think these white folks are benevolent because they're dealing in symptoms of racism, never attacking the problem. Remember, what was it, last year when we had the George Floyd protests? The nationwide George Floyd protests that began in Minnesota? Well, I'll be on Dr. King's birthday, January 15th, God willing. That was a damn disgrace. Do you realize the George Floyd protests of 2020 were the largest, most comprehensive protests in American history since the Dr. King murder protests? And what did black people get out of it? Not a damn thing. And you know why? You made 3 mistakes with the George Floyd protest. I mean, our issues was on television for the first time every day, all day. We haven't had that since King. And maybe Rodney King. 3 mistakes we made. Number 1, we integrated the march. The George Floyd march should have stayed black. You should have told your white boyfriends and girlfriends stay their nasty mayonnaise asses home. This is for black people. But you couldn't do that because you love white folks too much. Do you realize the Pew Research Trust found that 1 in 5 protesters were black. 4 in 5 protesters were white. So how could your issues ever be the priority when you letting your oppressor represent you? That should have stayed all black. You let everybody in, Mexicans, Chinese, Arabs, and soon the protests end. What does Donald Trump sign? The Hispanic Prosperity Initiative. Black people said, wait a minute, how did they get? And then the Native Americans got something. They said, wait a minute, those was our marches. No, it wasn't. It should have been your march. But since you integrated, all the groups that integrated with you got something out of it except you. If you don't learn how to stand by yourself, you'll never get nothing. I'm so sick of us calling ourselves people of color. What the hell is that? Trying to blend in because you're ashamed to be black. And then you got a whole I ain't from Africa movement on YouTube. I ain't from Africa. Look just like Shaka Zulu with your dumb ass. My ancestor was already here. You don't even know your great-grandfather's last name. You don't know who the hell was here. Now wanting to be black. I call them the Pretendian Nation. The Pretendians. Not Indians, Pretendians. Last time I checked, everybody came from the mother continent except the Pretendians in America. Ain't that interesting? But here's the bigger question I got for the Pretendian Nation. It's not whether you was here already or not. Here we go, arguing over the history again. I don't care about the history right now. What are we going to do for our children? That's my question. Pretendian or African, it don't matter. White folks don't like none of us. What are we going to do? That's the question. Whenever we have a meeting, we got to come together for purpose, brothers and sisters. The purpose of building this. The purpose of changing that. Too many intellectual and ideological masturbation sessions. It got to stop, y'all. We got 5 major problems in this country. 5. Miseducation, mass incarceration, gentrification, police genocide, and access to wealth. And I'm willing to bet you there's not a black politician in the state of South Carolina that got a solution for any of them. I'm willing to bet there's not a Negro in your state who has a plan, not a promise, a plan on paper to tackle any one of those 5. The Congressional Black Caucus down in Washington, D.C., I'm still trying to find out why those 59 Negroes exist at all. The Congressional Black Caucus ain't done nothing for black folks, been around since 1971, and not one measurable gain. Nothing! The only time you see them Negroes is when white folks got to get elected. You notice that? White man got to get elected. You see them, so when the white man get elected, they go back underground like a damn earthworm or something. I love Maxine Waters, but what are y'all doing for black folks? Y'all should have been walked. Y'all should have had a sit-in in Biden's office. Trump's too. Y'all should have walked right into the White House and sat down and said, we having a sit-in. All 59 of us. Lock us up if you want. You know how powerful that would be? If all 59 U.S. congressmen and women of African race walk into the president's office and say, we're not leaving until you do something for our people. But they won't do it. They scared of the white folks. Which is why I don't vote for black people if they're not independent candidates. I'm not voting for another black Democrat. I'm not voting for a black Republican. Why not, Dr. Umar? Because if you're a black Democrat or a black Republican, you belong to a white racist party that does not prioritize your people's issues. That's right. That's why they don't speak up for you the way that they should, because the Democratic parties in the background say, don't sound too black or you will distance the conservative white voters we need at the midterms. So every black elected official is on a balancing beam doing this shit here to make sure they don't distance certain white voters. Y'all know the games they play. If we want black politicians to represent black people, we got to finance them ourselves. The most important thing you do with a politician is not vote, you finance them. Because the hand that pays is the hand that rules. If you can elect somebody in Columbia, South Carolina, on 100% black money, they don't owe Walmart nothing. They don't owe the Democratic Party nothing. They don't owe the white banks nothing. They are free. Once they get elected, all you got to do is make sure they got 24-hour security. That's the only thing left. Because they have a free slate. All you got to do is look at who financed these people. You know whose agenda they're going to carry out. Look at the campaign contributions. If voting could change anything, it would be illegal. I want to say thank you to South Carolina for all of you who donated to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. I regularly get a lot of donations across the state of South Carolina. For those of you who missed our first annual festival, please come next year. It will be on Saturday, September the 10th, God willing, right there in Wilmington, Delaware, 20 minutes from the Philadelphia International Airport. Wilmington is Philly's backyard. I could actually get to the school quicker than I could get to other places in the city of Philly itself. It's the point at which Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland all meet, Wilmington, Delaware. So we're working on the school, God willing. It'll be done by the end of the calendar year, but of course I said that before, but I don't control the setbacks. When I get back to the city, we're gonna get the HVAC put in. Hopefully everything connects well, and we ain't got to spend no more money for HVAC repairs. I got a little bit more plumbing, a little bit more electric, and we should be able to apply for our certificate of occupancy. Once the school is open, we're going to have a grand opening. I'm hoping we get to do it for February. 28 days of Black History inside of FDMG. And I'm telling you right now, brothers and sisters, I tell you right now, you're going to be spending a lot of time at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy because in addition to being a school, those 4 buildings will also double as the Central Black Community Organizing Headquarters. We're going to be having an all-black women's conference, all-black men's conference, ex-offender conference, black farmers conference, black cosmetologist conference. And I'm going to have a snow bunny conference for all you white girl loving coons to find out what your problem is. Yeah. It's going to be a conference every weekend, so I'm letting you know right now. Some of y'all probably going to end up moving to Wilmington, Delaware. The property is pretty cheap right now. They're about to gentrify it soon. But you might want to start looking at Wilmington, Delaware, because every day something's going to be going on. Not events, but meetings, think tanks, conferences, and seminars to pull us out from where we are to where we need to be. And quiet is kept. The school is just the beginning of the dream. I can't put all my plans out there because the YouTubians will put it all out on YouTube. Right. Okay? But the school is just the foundation and institution of a Black Wall Street we want to build in Wilmington. We got plans for a clinic, which we want to evolve into a church. We got plans for a Black community college. Yes. We have plans for the daycare center. We have plans for a lot of things. Manufacturing sector, and it's the perfect place to do it. 2 hours from DC, 90 minutes from Baltimore, 2 hours from New York, 20 minutes from Philadelphia. We're right on 95 South. Can't miss us. Okay. So that's where we are. So make sure y'all keep on donating. We need y'all help. Don't listen to the coons, because if you listen to the coons, I'm going to have to put you in the book of Negroes and you won't be allowed on the campus. Okay? It's funny, when we did the festival on September 11th, I had all kind of haters messaging me in the inbox, Doc, I didn't mean it, Doc. They just had me kind of messed up for a minute. Can I come to the block party? Hell no. Because you speak it out against something we're doing for our kids. And maybe I'm blind, but I don't know of another person in our race doing what I'm doing in this state. That don't make me more important. It don't make me better than nobody else. But the void that I feel, it ain't being filled by nobody else. Certain people should be off limits because they do the work that needs to be done. Making videos on YouTube is not work. And I got more videos than any scholar alive, and I still don't consider that work. Work is when I'm out there saving them kids. Work is when I'm trying to build that school. Work is when I'm trying to create systems and alternatives for our children. For those of you who do have children, we will be hosting the Unapologetically African Black College and Consciousness Tour next summer. There's going to be 2 tours. One for the 11 to 17-year-old black boys and girls, and another one for the 18 to 25-year-old black boys and girls. So if you have a son or daughter, 11 to 17, it will be your responsibility to get them to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy on the day we leave. Now, you can fly them to Philly, you can put them on a train to Philly, you can put them on a bus to Philly. We will pick them up. We will get them, and we will make sure to get back on that plane, back on that train, back on that bus to come back to Columbia, South Carolina. Okay? But you can work with us to get the child. All right? And it's going to be 2 weeks, 14 days and 14 nights. I'm taking them to the Harriet Tubman home, Harriet Tubman grave, Frederick Douglass home, Frederick Douglass grave, the Nat Turner Trail, Benjamin Banneker's home, the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. They're going to go to the world famous Apollo Theater. They're going to go to the Malcolm and Betty Shabazz Center. They're going to go to Malcolm's grave, Dr. Khaled's grave, Dr. Ben's grave, James Baldwin's grave, Aaliyah's grave. They're also going to go to the National Ray Blacks and Wax Museum. They're going to go to the Black African Holocaust Museum in Philadelphia, which is the only museum in America dedicated to the enslavement of African people. I'm going to give them the downtown Philadelphia tour, because people think Philadelphia is the birthplace of freedom. Philadelphia is the birthplace of slavery. Okay, Independence Hall was where they enforced the 1850 fugitive slave law. Okay, we're going to go to Cheney, Lincoln, Morgan State, Coppin State, Bowie, Howard, Hampton, Virginia Commonwealth, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. There's about 15 HBCUs they're going to hit. I'm going to take them to Great Adventure. They're going to go to Dorney Park. They're going to go to Atlantic City to the beach. They're going to have fun, but they're also going to learn. And every other night in the hotel conference center, there will be a seminar on something that is important for our children: African history, respecting your parents, planning your future, dealing with emotions and anxiety as a young person, which is very important, because in case you don't know, suicide for all black people is up. And for teenage black girls, it is through the roof. And I want all of y'all to know right now, do not play around with children when they say they want to kill themselves. I do not play. Let a child in my presence say they want to kill themselves. You're going to the psychiatric emergency response center, and I know you're going to sit there all night before somebody see you. That's exactly where I'm going to take your ass, so you can sit there all night and know next time don't open your mouth and say you want to hurt yourself unless you mean it. But parents, don't think you know your children as well as you think you do when it comes to suicide. Take them to the hospital. Every emergency room at every hospital in America has an on-call psychiatrist or psychologist. Their job is to do the emergency suicide screenings. And trust me, it's a good deterrent for your child to keep them from saying it again. Because you got to sit there all night until the psychiatrist finally shows up and do their little 30-minute screener. And then you get a piece of paper, mom or dad, God forbid, in case your child does commit any type of self-harm, you have a form from a licensed doctor saying that they cleared your child to go back home with you. You gotta have that. You gotta have that. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for young black men, and the third leading cause of death for adult black men. Suicide. We are killing ourselves like it's no tomorrow, but you never hear about it on the news because white folks only care about black people with guns who can kill them. They don't care about us killing ourselves. Okay? Black people are dying. I regularly get text messages and email messages and inbox communications from brothers and sisters who are losing people to death by self-destruction. It's hard being black in America. That's why we got to unite and do more for each other. And that's why I'm just so thankful that I feel like we're on the brink of finally completing FDMG, brothers and sisters, because we don't have a lot of places in this country that we can go to and meet and plan and strategize and organize. I can count on one hand the amount of places I've been to speak at that was literally black owned. 90% of the time we're renting from non-Africans. And that's not just true for America. I've spoken everywhere but Australia, and damn near everywhere I go and speak, including in Africa, owned by non-Africans. You know what hurts me? When I travel the world, I see four things constant in every black community. I don't care if I'm in Jamaica. I don't care if I'm in South America. I don't care if I'm in Toronto. I don't care if I'm in Ghana or Ethiopia. What are the four things I see in every black community on the planet? Number one, white Jesus. White Jesus is universal. And I'm in South Carolina, so I know some of you Negroes got a white Jesus in your house. This is the heart of the Confederacy here. So I know some of you Negroes got a white Jesus. And when you go home today, burn that damn picture. Burn it. You should not have an image of your deity. You should not have an image of your deity that looks like your enemy. Nobody's deity looks like the enemy but you. You go home and you burn it. You can't put it in the trash. You know why you can't put it in the trash? Because if you put that painting outside in the trash, another coon will come get it and hang it up in the house. Burn that damn thing. That's number one, white Jesus. Number two, white curriculum. 95% of the world's African children are taught a white curriculum. And you wonder why we ain't got no more revolutions no more. Because look who's teaching our children. They control the information that goes into our babies' heads. What's the third thing I see? Unemployed black men, which equals mass incarceration. Black men are filling up the prisons, single black mother raising kids on their own. And what's the fourth thing I see? Every economy in the black community is dominated by non-African. Everywhere on the planet. You cannot name me a city, a town, a state, a country where the economy is dominated by black folks. Not even in Africa. Not even in the Caribbean. Every African community has a non-African alien dictating economic activity. Absolutely sad. Brothers and sisters, we got to get it together. Everybody know we the next great superpower, not the Chinese. But we got to get it together. We got to believe in each other more than the individual. Negroes are the most individualistic people I know. All we care about is us. I had people walk past my book. They say, oh, my kids is grown now. I don't need the book. I said, how selfish you are, Queen Mother. Why you say that, Dr. Umar? Don't you know in African culture, the children don't belong to parents. They belong to the village. Every child in your community is yours. You read that book, you might be able to save somebody else's child because their parents ain't going to read it. Stop thinking about yours and mines and this and that. Well, if everybody just take care of their kids, black America be okay. No, it won't. White people take care of their kids too, but they still come together and organize to dominate resources. Chinese take care of their kids, but they still come together and organize and dominate resources. We hate working together so much, we try to come up with solutions that don't require cooperation. At the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we're going to teach economic science. They will learn real estate, they will learn stock, they will learn investing, they will learn money management, they will learn how to do their own taxes as children. Agricultural science, they will be digging in the ground. We're building relationships with black farms all over the country. We plan on having black farmer retreat weekends for our boys, where we take them to different farms and they stay there all week and they learn something new about a different grain, a different fruit, a different way of cultivating the soil and the land. Because you do know in our culture, the earth is a deity. It is a living, breathing manifestation of God, and it is a source of healing. And I would argue one of the reasons black people are so toxic and getting so many diseases is we no longer tap into the belly of the mother, the soil. You got to put your hands in the dirt. There is God force in the soil. And we will do that at FDMG. We will also teach political and military science, which is the science of how white folks snatched everything from black folks and how the Chinese are getting ready to snatch it again. Okay? We will teach our children responsible self-defense with and without weapons. If you got a problem with your son learning how to use a gun, don't send him to my school because we live in the real world, not the one in that Bible. Okay? These white men out here teaching their kids at 5 and 6, they getting guns for their 4th birthday, and you out here talking about some Jesus ain't have no gun. Jesus don't live in 21st century Columbia, South Carolina either. We will also teach the science of the black man and black woman. We got to teach our boys how to love the black woman, how to honor the black woman, how to respect themselves. One night every week, there will be a family dinner with a certain grade of boys and myself and the teachers and staff, and we're going to sit around and we're going to talk and we're going to learn. And then I'll do my fireside chat where all the boys come with me, we open up a bonfire, and I teach them a different story from a different ancestor in the past. First 2 weeks of school will not be inside the school. It will be out in the hills and in the mountains where they will learn the pledges and the chants and the songs of FDMG, where they will learn the bonds of FDMG. And then once we've turned them into students who are ready to learn, then we go into the classroom. One weekend out of every month, they have to go to school or during the weekend to make up for all the time that they missed in the classroom. And for those of you who got special ed kids who you think need so much help, no problem. We won't have special ed, but I tell you what we will have, Weekend Academy. You know what Weekend Academy is for? It's for kids who think they got reading disabilities. And the kids who think they got ADHD. Kids who think they got emotional disturbances. You can't control your temper tantrums? No problem. You're going to come to school Saturday and Sunday from 8 in the morning till 8 at night until you stop temper tantruming. You can't read? No problem. You're going to come to school from 8 in the morning till 8 at night until you learn how to read. Who would have bet me $100 that after 2 weeks I will have no special ed problems at the Frederick Douglass Law School? Everybody will learn how to read all of a sudden just fine. Stop letting your kids run them games on you. I can't wait till the school open up. Brothers and sisters, if you want to work at the school, send me your resume. You do not have to be a certified teacher, but you cannot be a certified coon. Yes, we need math, we need science, we need language, we need social studies, but guess what else we need? We need brothers and sisters who know African martial arts because we're teaching it as a science. We need brothers and sisters who know how to do natural hair. We need brothers and sisters who know how to do natural food because we will be 90% raw and vegan institution. We need brothers and sisters who know how to build websites, do documentaries, teach photography, teach children how to make clothing. The question is not whether you're a licensed teacher. Get that out your head. The question I'm asking you here today, South Carolina, do you have a skill that you think is worth our children learning it? And if you have a skill to teach that you think could benefit our children if they learned it, you should be sending me a resume. We are a nation-building institution. FDMG will be the first school in American history that is not focused on college prep. I'm so sick and tired of these damn college prep schools. All of our kids got accepted to college. I guess so when the economic recession in college is a business. Of course they're going to get accepted. How many finished in 4 years? How many finished at all? Brothers and sisters, I'm not a hypocrite. I got 6 degrees from 3 different universities. I just spoke at my alma mater last Tuesday, Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. But guess what? I was a freshman in college in 1992. We 30 years removed from that now. When I went to school, getting a college degree still meant a little bit of something. And then I majored in psychology. I got lucky because I majored in mental illness for Negroes. And as long as you Negroes stay sick, I will always have a job. So I got lucky. But most of our sons and daughters, they won't get that lucky. Do you know there's 2 million Africans in this country with master's and doctorate degrees who cannot find a job? 2 million! And you can't wait to send your son and daughter off to college to do what? And then a lot of our kids are in college wasting their time majoring in degrees that have no economic relevance when they get out. If you're going to send your child to college and these colleges are charging $30,000 to $60,000 a year, why is your son majoring in art history for $60,000? He can study art history at the public library with a library card. Your daughter getting a degree in community organizing in every class taught by white folks. Come on, y'all. If they want to be a teacher, they got to go to college. You want to be an engineer, a doctor, a psychologist. I understand that. But if you got a son or daughter who don't know what they want to do with their life, why are you gambling on it for $60,000 a year? If Dr. Umar was in charge, if I was in charge, every child in the state of South Carolina would go to trade school right after high school. You know why? Because it's only 2 years. You're not going to get almost no loan debt. And most importantly, you will have a lifelong skill that can pay your bills. The reason the prisons are filling up with black men is we no longer send our boys to trade school to learn the skills that pay the damn bills. The reason Grandpop was never unemployed is Grandpop had a skill that could pay a damn bill. College ain't giving you no damn skills. They're giving you information that doesn't even matter when you get out. Raise your hand if you owe student loans. The whole damn room. And guess what? Most of us with student loans don't even work in the area that we got the degree in. What good was it? White America putting the whole black community into long-term debt, and they're using a degree to do it. Now, with that being said, I do have to admit that I probably am going to go back to college, although I don't want to. And the reason I'm thinking about going back to college is because we do not have a major educational attorney in this country. And so when I help a parent fight a situation with their child, most of the time you can solve the problem on your own. That's what my new book is about, Black Parent Advocate. But once in a while you have a situation that will have to go to court. There's no black attorney in this country that I've met who specializes in educational law. And since we don't have an attorney to fight some of these cases that our mothers and fathers are facing with their children, I'm going to have to be it. So I'm going to go and get one more degree from these crackers and become an educational attorney so I can represent families in court when the need arises. Because we haven't had a major educational decision to benefit black children since 1954. There should have been a class action lawsuit against the over-identification of black kids for special ed. There should have been a class action lawsuit for the over-identification of black kids for ADHD. There should have been a class action lawsuit against the American Psychiatric Association and the American Psychological Association for letting black boys get diagnosed with ADHD when the evaluating psychologist never even observed the kid in the class. Most of the time your kids get diagnosed with ADHD, the psychologist never even went to the school to observe the kid. ADHD is an externalizing behavior. You got to diagnose it with your eyeballs, but you never put eyeballs on the kid. But you said he had ADHD anyway because of a complaining black mother and a complaining white teacher. That is if they let me in law school, because at this point, they all know who I am. I might got to change my name to get in. I'm going to apply to the black ones first, but they be cooling even worse than the white ones, to be honest with you. We can't have you in here, Ephi Tunde, with the shit you be talking. In conclusion, brothers and sisters, take your phone out. I'm going to give you my number so you know how to reach me. If you ever have any issues with your children, and then we'll take some questions and answers. My cell number is 215-989-9858. Somebody happy they paid the phone bill. If you don't turn that damn thing. 215-989-9858. Once more, 215-989-9858. Email address, Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com. DRUMARJOHNSON at yahoo.com. That's how you reach me. I must admit to you, though, once the school is open, I'm going to have to change my number. And I don't want to change that number. 215-989-9858 is so personally relevant and meaningful for me because I've had that number since my first trip to Africa back in 2005. And I got that number because somebody in the South African or Nigerian airport stole my luggage, and they found my cell phone that I ridiculously packed in the suitcase, and they ran the bill up like $5,000. And so when I got back to the States, luckily I took a police report out on the theft of the cell phone, but I forget what company I was with at the time. They discharged the bill, but then they also dropped me from their service. So I had to go to Sprint, which is now T-Mobile, and that was the number that I got. So that's why so many nines in the number, because it represents the ancestors who came back with me from Africa in 2005. So I don't want to give the number up, but I'm going to have to, because you Negroes don't want to call me all day long when I'm trying to run a school, and I can't have that. I want to close with a quote from my ancestor, Frederick Douglass. My family came to America, that is the paternal side of my family, came to America in 1701. A black man by the name of Bailey's, most likely stolen from the Igbo nation of Nigeria. He married a black woman, Grandmom Selah, for whom my 10-year-old daughter is named. In 1745, they had Grandmom Jenny. In 1774, Grandmom Jenny gave birth to Grandma Betsy. My Grandma Betsy, who was my 6 times great-grandmother, was born into slavery, but she married a free black man, my 6 times great-grandfather, Isaac Bailey. It just so happened they had the same last name as well. They had 12 children. One daughter was named Harriet, and another daughter was named Betsy, my 5 times great-grandmother. These 2 sisters were raped by Aaron Anthony, the white man who owned our family. As a result of that rape, in February of 1818, Aunt Harriet gave birth to arguably the greatest black leader in American history, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. In 1838, Cousin Fred ran away from slavery, and he changed his name to hide his identity. So in 1838 in New York, Frederick Bailey became Frederick Douglass. Well, in 1819, my Grandma Betsy gave birth to Frederick's first cousin and half-brother, my 4 times great-grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey. They were cousins because their mothers were sisters, but they were also half-brothers because the slave master raped both sisters. In 1861, the Civil War starts. Grandpa Stephen marries Grandmom Caroline, who didn't learn how to read until 1909, the year the NAACP was founded. On November the 14th of 1841, they had my 3 times great-grandfather, George Washington Bailey, who went on to become the first black public school teacher in Denton, Maryland, which is the hometown of Harriet Tubman's parents. So when the Civil War begins, Frederick sends 2 sons, Lewis and Charles. They go north to Boston. They fight in the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment. If you've ever seen the movie Glory, Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman, that's the story of the sons of Frederick Douglass. But let us not be remiss to mention that grandfather of Pan-Africanism, Martin Robinson Delaney, the first black uniform officer in the Civil War, his son was also a participant in the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment. My grandfather Stephen and his son, my grandfather George, fought in the United States Colored Troops of Maryland. My grandfather Stephen was actually present in Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, when General Gordon Granger read Special Order Number 3, liberating all remaining enslaved Africans in the state of Texas. My grandfather was there. When the Civil War was over, Grandpa George marries Grandma Annie. Grandma Annie is the niece of Bishop Alexander Wayman, who's the 7th bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church after Richard Allen. He was also the manager of the Philadelphia Underground Railroad house, from which William Still got that office, and that's when he recorded the largest collection of escaped slave narratives in world history. So then, Grandpa George and Grandma Manny have Grandma Caroline. She moves to Philadelphia. She has Grandma Vivian. Grandma Vivian marries a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant. My great-grandfather's sister wrote from Cuba. They have my Grandma Ida. She marries James Johnson. They have my father Jamal. He marries Barbara. And on August the 21st, the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, August the 21st, the anniversary of the Nat Turner War, August the 21st, the anniversary of the George Jackson War against mass incarceration, Umar Johnson was born in Philadelphia. Brothers and sisters, this coming Thursday, we will be at Nat Turner Land again. If you've never been to Nat Turner Land, try to get there soon. Baba Khalifa is the elder. He lives on the land. He does a full tour on the life and legacy of the great Nat Turner, who I believe is the greatest revolutionary to ever walk on American soil, black or white. You go to the church where Nat Turner preached. You go to the land where his wife Cherry once had the cabin. You go to the courthouse where Nat Turner was interviewed and incarcerated. And you even go to the trunk of the tree where Nat Turner was executed on November the 11th of 1831. That's why I go down there twice a year. On my birthday, August the 21st, because that's when the Nat Turner War started. And on November the 11th, because that's when Nat Turner was hanged between the hours of 10 and 2. I go there to refuel, to re-energize, because dealing with coons can weigh you down. So I go to Nat Turner Land. That's my annual pilgrimage to Nat Turner Land. And my favorite site in Africa is the Guri Island Slave Dungeon, because that's where I had my ancestral epiphany back in 2005 when I took my first trip. So it's Guri Island in Africa, but it's Nat Turner in the United States. If you want to join us, you can go to natturnerlibrary.com to register. That is natturnerlibrary.com. And if you can't be there on the anniversary next Thursday, you can go anytime. Just reach out to Baba Khalifa and schedule the tour. But Baba Khalifa is an elder. He's up in age. And one day he's going to retire from doing that tour. And I don't want you to not have the Baba Khalifa experience, because he is a master on the life and legacy of Nat Turner. Frederick Douglass said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean, but they're scared of the awful roar of the water." He said the struggle we have might be moral, or it might be physical, or it might be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. He said, a man may not get all you pay for in this world, but you will pay for all that you get. And if we as a people are ever to become free, we must pay for the removal of that oppression. We may pay with blows. We may pay with blood. We may pay with our lives. But he who wants to be free must strike the first blow. Frederick Douglass said, for 20 years, I prayed on my knees to God for freedom, but the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and prayed with my feet. He said, if you want respect from white people, why do you look for pity? The man who pities you would never respect you. The man who respects you has no need for pity. He said, but most of all, remember, power can seize nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. Without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won even before you have started. Mr. Garvey was once asked, are you an African or are you a Jamaican? Are you an African or are you a Jamaican? In response to that, His Excellency, the Provisional President of Africa, the elected Provisional President of Africa, Marcus Messiah Garvey said, you ask me, am I African or am I Jamaican? And I tell you, I would never give up a continent for an island. I am an African. One God, one aim, one destiny. Black power. Black power.